Hello and welcome back to the Ghost of Alcantra. I just had a thought that the scenes when Nick is being talked to by the different characters in his life kind of reminds me of A Christmas Carol. With the ghost of past, present and future. It doesn't quite match the format since both Scarlett and Warburton were more like the past and then maybe Uncle Kyle was for the present. And I don't know if other people are going to talk to him still, but you know what I mean, right? I mean, Uncle Kyle left us off with Nick having to really... it has to be Nick, like he has to decide if he wants to live, and even though other people can support him, he will have to do the one to do the work, do the living, so... I don't know. But we'll go back to Alexandria's memories for now. July 8th, 19XX. I had thought of telling my father about Nick and I even before the plans to meet Nick's parents. Somewhere within my cynical shell was someone who still thought of Elga Thorne as a parental figure and wanted him to know about her partner. Unfortunately, an opportunity to talk to father didn't present itself. Over the entirety of the 7th and the morning of the 8th, my father wasn't available due to meetings with Blade. That was worrisome. The two of them conspiring together could mean nothing good. I thought it likely my father preferred me to Vlad, but sometimes I forgot that Vlad and my father spent so much time together that the reason my father probably preferred me was precisely because we did not interact very often. My anxiety grew when Clarence informed me that my father wished to see me right after Vlad left the mansion. Elga Thorne only had back-to-back talks with his children if it related to important business. Thorne family business never boded anything good. I feared the worst when I entered the study because my father did not look up at me when I arrived. He didn't want to look at me, which meant he was going to tell me something I didn't want to hear. That could only mean one thing. I sat down and it took my father several moments to say anything. Alexandria, I know you won't want to hear this, but... The world around me froze, contrasting with my blood, which started to boil, knowing where this was going. You don't mean... I have made the decision to... No, don't. Don't you dare. To reinstate your supervision at the Thorne Mansion and prohibit activities outside of it. The ticking from the clock behind my father was the only indicator that the world continued to move. I slowly, and in vain, tried to process what my father had said. I don't think I heard you correctly. Could you repeat that again? I have made the decision to reinstate your supervision. You cannot be serious, father. I was near a volcanic eruption, but I held the blast back as best as I could. I am. To stop myself from grabbing something off his desk and throwing it at him, I contorted my features into a sick snarl. What did Vlad threaten you with? He made no threats. You liar. It was my decision. Don't play dumb with me, father. Just tell me what idiocy he told you so that I can refute it and you can reverse this asinine decision you've made. We agreed that the current social and political climate of Alcantra is dangerous due to unfortunate circumstances and that the burgeoning recognition of your presence in the town might present a risk to the family. I couldn't believe this. I finally erupted. You dare blame me? I am not blaming you, but it is simply a fact that your activities in Alcantra will have more people questioning who you are. Oh, so I'm allowed to go out, but only if I don't do anything? I didn't say that. It's just that your activities have now become discussion worthy to others. So your daughter isn't allowed to fall in love then? I didn't say that. If you wanted the Thorns to stop being so suspicious, why don't you politely ask your son to stop killing people and turn himself in?
That's hardly fair, Alexa.
You coward! I didn't fear repercussions at this point. My father deserved to be yelled at. All the evidence points towards Vlad being the culprit, or at least heavily involved, and you would side with him?
This is a temporary measure, Alexandria, just till things calm down regarding the investigation.
This will never be temporary as long as Vlad does not face consequences for his actions. You and I both know that.
I won't let that happen.
You already have, Father. Never in my life had I experienced even a fraction of the anger I felt now. Of course I was upset about not being able to see Nick under this order, but more than anything, I was furious that I was once again no longer recognized as a person. Freedom to leave the mansion should not have to be granted to me. I, Alexandria Thorne, was entitled to this fury. I will spell it out to you so that you hear the sheer stupidity with which you justify the imprisonment of your daughter. For most of my life, I was locked up because you were too cowardly to face the repercussions of your morally abhorrent acts. I suffered for your sins, and now, because Vlad has killed and placed the family name at risk, you imprison me to protect the family's reputation. Once again, I suffer for someone else's sins. I mustered as much venom as I could in my next remarks. You have wronged me from birth and continue to do so now. One day, I hope you face all the torment you ought to have already faced for your treatment of me. I hadn't even realized that I had stood up to shout at my father. I sat back down. I had said my piece. I'm sure they fell on deaf ears. There are two types of people in which moral appeals are useless to: the idiots and the powerful. Unfortunately, my father was a powerful idiot. Oh, that's the worst kind. I have said what I wanted to. My father didn't respond. He at least had the decency to look ashamed.
Alexandria.
Are you reversing your decision?
No, but...
Then I don't want to hear it. Apologies are meaningless unless supported by action. There was no justification for his decision. Thus, there was no forgiveness I could bequeath. Let's hear the details. There was no convincing my father. It was best to divert my energy to my next steps. I had to know the parameters of my confinement. If I was to escape, and I was going to, it was best to start thinking of a plan immediately. My confinement was as follows. During the day, I was allowed anywhere in the mansion. I was allowed on the grounds under supervision. A staff member would be guarding the entrance of the mansion during the day, and I'd be locked into my suite at 9 in the evening. The suite would be unlocked starting at 6 in the morning.
And Alexandria, one last thing. Arrangements have been made to explain your disappearance.
He brought up some papers.
Would you pen these letters to your acquaintances? The details for your departure are included with these papers. Whatever you want to say is fine, insofar as it accords with the details we have made.
I will write no such letters. My father stayed silent. This matter is all on your hands. If in that letter I'm allowed to explain the decrepit moral nature of this family, then I'd be happy to do so. But if not, then the lies must come from you.
If that is what you wish.
I got up to leave.
Alexandria, I'm sorry, but it will only be until...
I had already left the room. I had said before that I didn't fear death, and that the only thing I really feared was returning to my previous life. Well, here we were, and my sentiments remained the same. I was going to escape this mansion under the cover of nightfall. The reminders of reason and the urges of self-preservation are no match for the stupidity that comes from being in love. Was it love that compelled me? Yes, but I must apologize but I must apologize, Nick. Though I do love you, my love for you isn't what compels me to do this. It is love for myself. Honestly, that's a better reason in this case. Alexandria Thorne deserved to live life. And live life she would, or die trying. Self-love shouldn't have to be so dangerous, but such were the circumstances I found myself in. I'm sorry, Nick. I know you'll be devastated when you read whatever lies my father will feed you, but don't worry, it'll only be 1 day at max of devastation. I need 1 day to prepare, and by tomorrow night I should be able to make my escape. I was going to need materials. The Thorne mansion has 4 floors, and unfortunately, my suite was on the top floor, along with the suites of my father and brother. Each suite consisted of a bathroom, a kitchen area, a living area, and a bedroom. Okay, so that locking her in at night in the suite at least doesn't mean just locking her in a bedroom. Like, I assumed she had a bathroom at least accessible, but that's something. It's still in no way excusable to lock up a person, but you know. Such was the extravagance of the Thornes. Our family attempted to make up for our lack of moral character with decadence. In that respect, my family was a very successful one. Given my suite was to be locked at night, the only option for me to escape was to go out through the window. It would be easy enough to get out with something like a rope. The problem was that leaving a rope hanging from my window to the ground was too risky, given the alertness with which I would leave my trail. Of course, I also had to figure out how to get back up to my window. I returned to my room to think over some details. I thought, and thought, and thought, and I came to the conclusion that there was no way to escape without leaving some evidence that I had done so. I would just have to take a risk. However, that risk could be mitigated some. I need not use a rope to get from my bedroom window to the ground, but use that rope to get to another room in the mansion. The staff members' quarters were on the 3rd floor, but not all of the rooms were occupied. That was the route I was going to have to take. I just have to climb down from floor 4 to an unoccupied room on floor 3. Still risky, but yeah, sounds better than having to go all the way through the ground to the ground and up later. I asked a staff member for an itinerary of the employees stationed here and their quarters. I wasn't worried they'd report my activities to father of late. The staff minded their own business. Besides, my father and Vlad didn't think much of me. It would never cross their mind that I would try to sneak out. Really? It wouldn't? Then why would they lock you in your suite and supervise you? There was a room on the 3rd floor, a little diagonally below my window, that was vacant. Once I got into the room, I could unlock the door, sneak through the mansion down to the 1st floor, and then leave the mansion through a window on the 1st floor somewhere. I didn't dare risk taking the front door. It would make too much noise. Of course, this depended on me being stealthy, but I could do that. I would just have to be careful. That left 2 things to take care of: figuring out the descent from my bedroom window to the window on the 3rd floor, and making sure the window of the room on the 3rd floor was unlocked. I could take care of the latter now. I made my way to the room, making sure no one noticed me. Thankfully, the room wasn't locked, and I was able to go inside. I quickly strode into the room and unlocked the window. I reversed course quickly, and then went back up to my room to plan out the rest of my escape. There was about 15 feet between my bedroom window and the window of the room on the 3rd floor. I would need rope, but I couldn't have the staff members get me that. I couldn't risk implicating any of the staff. They'd get in serious trouble if I was caught. I had to do this alone. That meant I'd have to find a substitute for rope. I settled on bedsheets. I could get those myself. Yeah, that was my first thought as well. A bit more obvious than rope, but I would also need something to secure the rope with. I checked the latch on my window. Unfortunately, it wasn't sturdy enough for the job unless I was suicidal. I would have to make something myself. I scrounged my suite for tools. All I found were screws and a screwdriver. I'd still need something to fasten to the wall beside the window. I checked my bathroom. There was a metal bar that was meant for drying towels there. If I could figure out how to get it off the bathroom wall and onto the wall beneath my bedroom window, I could use that. I'd have to tell the staff members I didn't want the bathroom clean so they didn't find out. Hopefully they'd allow me to clean my own bathroom. I had decided on the course of action to take and went to work. I removed the bar from my bathroom with some difficulty and fastened it to the wall underneath my bedroom window with the screws and screwdriver. I then started making rope with excess bed sheets using scissors. I finished the preparations around 2 in the morning. I would hide my new contraption underneath my window with bed sheets during the day, and if anyone inquired, it was a metal gallows from which I was going to hang miniature dolls of my father and brother. Great. Exhausted but satisfied, I went to bed. Sweet dreams and hold tight, Nick. I'll see you tomorrow night. I guess she can always tell the staff, like, don't clean my room, like, I'm going to be locked up here so I need something to do, or whatnot. July 10th, 19XX. I spent most of the day in the library looking at maps for opportune places to take Nick to. I settled on taking Nick to a clearing on a hill not too far from the mansion and committed the rest of the potential places to visit to memory. Spending the day in the library also doubled as an escape from Blade, who was throwing a tantrum. He usually moderated misbehavior, so this display meant that his conscience was more burdened by his actions than he had anticipated. That gave me a potential bargaining chip with my father, unless he wanted his unhinged maniac of a son to take over. The thought of me as head, which had merely been a passing thought before, was starting to sound more and more promising as a solution. Unfortunately, being a blowhard didn't make Vlad any more sleepy. When I was locked into my suite, I waited by the door and didn't hear Vlad enter his room until after 1 in the morning. I waited an hour longer to make sure that he was going to stay in his suite, and then I began to make my escape. I quadrupled tied the bedsheet rope to the foundation I had made, and then tied the rope to myself. I walked to the window, opened it up, and brought myself up onto the ledge. I scouted my target about 15 feet below me to the left. Thankfully, there were no windows in the way of my path. I had been flirting with death for a month now, but what I was doing now was the most obvious way the danger in my life instantiated itself. If death couldn't scare me, then Vlad and my father certainly couldn't. I turned around so that my back was facing the open air, held onto the rope, and then began gradually lowering myself by walking down the side of the Thorn Mansion. It took me about a minute to lower myself to the ledge of the window I wanted to reach. So far so good. I opened the window I had previously unlocked for myself and hopped into the room. I went to the door and put my ear by it. It would be embarrassing to be foiled by being spotted by a staff member going to the bathroom. I listened for any signs of movement, detected none, and very cautiously opened the door. I peeked out and saw no one. I quietly closed the room and quickly darted towards the stairs. The stairs were dangerous since there was nowhere to hide on them. Thankfully, Lady Luck was on my side. I encountered no one on my descent to the first floor. I made my way to a window on the first floor far away from the front door, unlocked it, and climbed out onto the grounds. I made it. However, I still had to do this all again coming back, which included climbing up from the third floor window to my bedroom window. It was already getting late, so I couldn't do much with Nick. You have no one watching the grounds with such a big mansion? Like, you'd expect there to be either a guard or like some kind of like burglar alarm or something. No? Or is it not necessary because it's like gated in? Anyway, convenient for her. All I could really do was tell him what was going on before returning. Hopefully, future nights would be more I know this word, but more fortuitous in allowing me to leave earlier. I decided not to use our secret passage since I didn't want to risk meeting Blade there. I would have to climb over the fence. I made my way to a spot along the fence I could climb up that was far away from the main gate. I climbed over the fence with little difficulty and was outside the property of the Thorns. All I had to do now was get to Nick's place and wake him up. I had already decided on the very cliché approach of throwing small rocks at his window. Thankfully, I knew which window was his from the tour his mom gave me of the house. All I had to do was get there and hope he wasn't a heavy sleeper. And if he was, well, I'd jump off that bridge when we got there. Interesting analogy. I jogged through Alcantra to get to Nick's place. Luckily, I didn't encounter anyone on my run to Nick's home. There's nothing illegal about running late at night, but the less stories I had to tell, the better. It was getting close to 3 in the morning by the time I made it to Nick's place. We would pretty much have to part immediately after I took him to the clearing, but that was fine. Today was mostly to explain myself to him and put his mind at ease. I grabbed a tiny little pebble and threw it at Nick's window. It barely made a sound. I picked up a larger pebble and threw it. I suppose I might wake up Nick's parents, but even in that worst case scenario, I knew I could count on his mother to back me up. After 5 rock throws, Nick, in a hilariously drowsy state, popped his head out the window and spotted me. I ignored his dumbfounded expression and beckoned him with my best come-hither finger gesture. A couple of minutes later, Nick was by my side. I shushed Nick with a finger, grabbed his hand, and started leading him to the spot I wanted to take him. I was a woman on a mission, and we had no time to waste. I explained what was going on, though I lied about one detail. I told him that my father and I were working on an agreement that would let me regain my freedom and put Vlade out of commission. Interesting. But right, she did talk about an agreement, and we never really got the details of that. I was very interested in that, but... That wasn't true. Yet. It wasn't an agreement, it was a plan. The solution for everything was for me to become the successor instead of Vlade. Between Vlade's competence and the corruption within Alcantra, my father and I were the only ones who could stop Vlade. If we turned in Vlade, I would be left with the remnants of a disgraced family, but even a disgraced heir has a freedom. My freedom and stopping Vlade could be dealt with in one move. It would be a hard sell to convince my father, but I had to try. Oh boy. Very risky, and I mean, we know how it ended up, so... Maybe not the smartest plan. I get it, though. That was the only way... The only thing that she could do instead of... Yeah, like aside from giving up. Alexandria, how about you just stay with me? We'll tell my parents and Uncle Kyle who you are. They'll understand. You'll be safe with us, and your family will have to acknowledge you. None of us would be safe if I stayed with you. You underestimate the wrath of the Thorns. But... No buts. This isn't negotiable. I'm risking your safety enough by meeting you. I won't have you face my brother's anger. He's too powerful. Plus, this is something I can't run away from. I continued walking briskly towards the spot I wanted to take him, but squeezed his hand. Please understand, Nick. Because I love you, I risk meeting you like this. And because I love you, I can't stay like this with you. One day there will be no more barriers between us, and when that day comes, I hope you'll still want to be with me.
If you say so, Alexandria. But how long is this deal with your father going to take? I had no clue. I made up some stuff.
It should take up to 2 weeks tops.
Alright, that doesn't sound too bad. And you're sure it'll work, even though it's a deal with your dad? You know he's not the greatest guy in the world.
It'll work for sure.
I hoped so anyway.
Anyway, Nick, what about you? Are you willing to keep meeting me like this? I haven't even asked if you're okay with this.
Of course I am. It's not like there's any real risk for me doing this. Isn't the bigger worry what will happen to you if you get caught?
They'll probably publicly execute me.
What?
I'm kidding. I don't know what they would do. Probably just lock me up in a family dungeon.
Should you really be doing this then?
Of course I should.
I mean, I'm glad to see you and all, but Alexandria, I'm not worth...
Yes, you are.
He was quiet. I continued.
You're worth it, and I'm worth it too. I won't get caught, don't worry.
I felt surprisingly confident about that.
Plus, when we're talking to our grandchildren, it'll be a great story to tell. We'll tell them how brave Grandma was to meet up with Grandpa.
We're having grandkids?
Probably.
Then we're getting married.
Obviously.
Nick laughed. Is it just me, or are you awfully confident for someone who is being locked up by your dad?
It's not you. I'm feeling particularly powerful this evening.
I know it's a moot point, but if her plan was to turn inflate anyway, why wouldn't she just, go be with Nick and they'll tell Uncle Kyle what she can? I know they're lacking evidence, that's what her father also said, but I don't know. Trying to work together with the dad to then turn Flight in? Like waiting for that? Isn't that more risky? Wouldn't it be better to just go to the police and then she can still talk to her dad and try to convince him to help? Anyway, it's no use now, but would have, could have. The clearing was just up ahead now.
We'll talk about marriage in just a second.
Wait, you were serious?
I ignored him and led him to the clearing and enjoyed his reaction. I pretended to play it cool, but the view here really was breathtaking. In another world, in another life, if I could have confessed my feelings to him here, I would have. We don't have much time, so let's talk about us.
Nick returned his gaze to me. Wait, you're actually serious about getting married already? We've been dating for all of 3 days.
I'll get to that. First, are we both in agreement to continue meeting like this?
Sure, of course.
Good. That takes care of the immediate future. Now let's talk about something a little further away.
Nick looked at me a little skeptically.
I'm not saying we're getting married.
Nick looked a little disappointed, which made me laugh.
But just in case that wonderful possibility is open to us, I want to ask you something. For courage.
For courage?
For courage. For me.
I took a deep breath.
I can't be a fox, Nick.
His jaw dropped as he misunderstood what I meant. I thought you just said it was a wonderful possibility. You let me on like that and now you don't want to get married?
You were the one who was acting like it was an absurd proposition.
I mean, maybe it's a little rushed. Not that being a little rushed is a bad thing. I have a cousin who got married after 1 week of dating and they...
Let me explain what I meant. I'm a thorn. I cannot simply just leave the Thorn family, especially given the circumstances I will be in shortly. If we were to be together long term, you would have to become a thorn. Could you do that?
Yes. I smiled a little sadly.
I knew you'd say that, because even though you're wonderful, you are also intensely foolish sometimes. Let me help you reconsider. My family consists of at least 2 murderers. My family has an economic vice grip on this area. My family has ruined countless lives. You would join such a family?
I would. And while I admit I can be pretty dumb, I think you sometimes underestimate me. I tilted my head quizzically. I can put 2 and 2 together, Alexandria. Let me ask you this. Are you going to be the next head of the family? I had underestimated him. I knew I was such a mystery to him. I had taken it for granted that he was always thinking of what explanations lay behind those mysteries. All I could do was nod my head.
I will.
The Thorn family has been nasty, that's true. But I know you, Alexandria. You're not like your father or brother. I'd be proud to be the husband of Alexandria Thorn, the head of the Thorn family. Though I suppose I'll have to stop calling you a princess. You'll be the queen.
And I'd hate for you to stop being Nick Fox. Fox is such a cool last name.
I'm rather fond of it too, but Nick Thorn has its own ring to it as well.
If you'd like to keep your name, you could just be my long-term, whatever the male equivalent for mistress is.
We've already made enough commitments that I think we're past the messing around phase.
You're right. We're firmly in the we messed up phase.
Well, yeah. Speak for yourself. You're one of my best decisions.
One of?
We both laughed. It was getting late and we needed to part soon. There was just one more thing I wanted to tell him.
Do you know when I first realized I was in love with you, Nick?
When?
When I told you I was a thorn and you unconditionally accepted who I was. Now you've accepted me all over again.
So you've fallen in love with me all over again?
I have. I hope that I'll continue to fall in love with you over and over again.
Me too, Alexandria. Till death do us part. Oh boy.
I bet you don't even know that comes from a prayer book. Not as romantic as you might think.
Seriously? I stepped up to him and put my arms around his neck.
Till death do us part then, Nick Thorn.
Ay. I parted his lips with my own, and we departed after that. Death could only do so much to part the 2 of us. Every moment we share takes us one step closer to death, but death is only one step closer to eternity. People never really leave each other for good. It was simple physics. Love can never be destroyed, only changed forms. I gave him some last instructions, and then I made my way back to the mansion. I had to hurry because dawn was beginning to break, and some of the servants would be getting up soon. Just a moment. I made it to the grounds, reclimbed the fence, bolted to the window I had come through, and relocked it. I stealthily made my way up to the 3rd floor, checked the corridor to make sure the coast was clear, and then quickly darted to the room with my beloved opportunistic window and accompanying latch. I opened the window, grabbed the bedsheet rope I had left there, tied it to my waist, and began climbing up back to my room, closing the window behind me. After a couple of minutes of climbing, I was back in my room safe and sound. I closed the window, hit the bedsheet rope, covered my rope securing contraption, changed clothes, and then jumped into bed. I thought about the past Alexandria Thorn. She never would have tried to pull off what I had done tonight. I had changed a lot this past month, but I held no contempt for the woman I had been before, as she was the starting point for the me I loved now. Proud of myself like I had never been before, and knowing that sleep was a long, long way off, I closed my eyes.
July 11th, 19XX. I had a promise to keep and my dignity to uphold. I made my way to my father's study. These antiquated halls once served as my prison walls, but soon they'll be the walls of my fortress. I was a queen in her castle. Days ago, I had left my father's study disgraced by his decision to throw aside his daughter in favor of the family legacy. Today, I returned to regain my honor by taking control of that legacy. A delusion became a lie, then became a promise, and then a necessity. I was going to request that my father make me the next head of the family. I had explored the possibilities of the lives I might have lived, the happiness I might have been a part of. In a kinder, gentler world, I'd join Nick and the Foxes. We'd visit his parents on weekends and have a small house on the outskirts of Alcantra. We'd forget that I was ever a thorn and be content with an ordinary and mundane happiness. Perhaps in another life, in another reincarnation, Nick and I can live that wonderful life together. But not in this world. In this one, I had a job to do. Of 3 thorns, at least one of them had to do the right thing. Because I love you, Nick, I want to be with you. And because I love myself, I have to be a thorn and not a fox. I have to stop my father and brother. I arrived at my father's study and gave a firm knock on the door.
"It's me, Father. I wish to talk with you."
There was a pause, likely because my father thought I was here to rehash arguing my freedom. Another moment passed and he told me to come in. I went in without taking a seat. If I was to be the head, I wasn't going to be looked down upon anymore. My father was looking old, as if this past month had aged him more than a month or 2. I suppose that both of us had grown. He grew closer to death, and I grew closer to life. Wow, what a sentence. I wasted no time with trivialities.
"Father, please make me the next head of the Thorn family."
If my father was shocked, he made no reaction indicating it. Silence permeated the space between us, but even in silence, I didn't relent. I tried to convey the pride of an heir in that staring contest with my father. Finally,
Do you know what your request entails, Alexandria?
"I do.
Then tell me.
Making me the heir entails turning in Vlade for multiple murders. It means acknowledging your affair with a woman who wasn't Yena Thorn. It means destroying the legacy of what the Thorns were. It leaves it up to me to rebuild the Thorns."
I continued without giving him a chance to rebut what I had said.
"That is what would happen. Now let me tell you why it should happen. Blade, the current heir, is not fit for the role of head, both pragmatically and ethically. He is responsible for at least 2 murders. Even if he were to get away with the murders, his mental state could not deal with the responsibility the job entails. He can only be a tyrant, he can never be a head. And it goes without saying that the morally correct thing to do is to turn in a murderer.
I hoped the pragmatic plea would appeal to father, even if the moral one did not.
As for me, Alexandria Thorn, I do not have the economic or business training yet, but I am certainly capable of being the leader of this family if taught those things. I am very intelligent, very brave, and unlike previous heads and heirs, I'm willing to do the right thing.
I had one last case to make, and I think it would be the one that angered father the most. However, I hoped that anger would be the wake-up call he needed to realize what sort of legacy he was trying to protect.
Lastly, the very Thorn legacy you are trying to protect is one that should be destroyed. I cannot speak about previous heads, but let me speak about the current head and his heir. The current head is a murderer who had multiple affairs, locked up his daughter, abused his son, and covered up the crimes of his son. The current heir is responsible for at least 2 murders, willing to commit more, and has threatened his own family members. The Thorn legacy is a legacy of crime, of deceit, and of abuse. If that is the legacy you wish to protect, let it be clear what you are protecting. If you acknowledge that the Thorn legacy is one that ought to be destroyed and rebuilt, then please consider me as the best person to bring about the regeneration of this family's name.
With that, I finished my appeal. I still didn't sit down. I stood, waiting for my father's response. After 10 seconds, masqueraded as 10 hours, my father gave a small smile.
And here I thought you were going to yell at me for not allowing you to go out.
I would like to yell at you about that as well, but I'd like you to consider what I've just said first.
My father leaned back in his chair.
I will give you my answer in a minute, but first I want to ask you a question.
Ask away.
Alexandria, why do you think I kept you as my daughter?
Was this some sort of test?
You've always wanted a daughter?
No, I kept you as a daughter because I loved your mother. Your mother was a woman named Cheryl I met in Wisconsin while doing business. I really did love her. When we found out that she was pregnant, she wanted to have you, so I began the arrangements for getting rid of Yina so that I could take Cheryl as my wife. Unfortunately, Cheryl died in childbirth. Before she died, she asked if I would take care of our daughter. I told her that I would. He let out a sheepish chuckle. I guess taking care of you is an overstatement for how I've treated you, but that's why I had you raised as a thorn. We both know that I have no justification for what I've done, but I did love your mother, and I love you too, Alexandria.
I hadn't imagined the circumstances surrounding my birth were so romantic, nor did I expect my father to admit to killing Yina so easily. I did think the first one was true, actually. Like everything we've learned so far, I did assume that he was probably actually did love her mother. But yeah, to admitting the killing, that is a surprise.
Let me ask you another question, Alexandria. Do you think I love Blade too?
Yes, but you've got a real stupid way of showing it.
Eloquently put. Yes, before your mother, I loved Marina Raddick. She left after giving birth to Blade, but I held no grudge against her. I knew it wouldn't have been easy for her, because I didn't yet have the courage to get rid of Yina like I would years later. It's so cold to say, like, to get rid of Yina. Wow. Yeah, anyway. I loved Blade, but unfortunately, I only knew how to raise him how I had been raised. As you noted, our family's legacy is a dark one.
Can I take this as a promising sign you are considering my request?
I'm getting there, Alexandria. Let an old man take his time in making a decision.
He looked up towards the ceiling, and I got the feeling he was looking into years past. He was in the world of nostalgia and regrets, a world very far away from this one.
I guess I always suspected this conversation might happen, or maybe I should say that I wanted it to happen.
You? Wanting to have a conversation about me being the head of the family?
Earlier this summer, you asked me why I let you have your freedom, and I told you that it was because I wanted to make amends. That wasn't a lie, but it also wasn't the full truth.
Yes, I remember that.
The full truth is that I let you have your freedom out of fear.
Out of fear? Fear of what?
Out of fear of Blade. Because while I do love him, I'm also afraid of him, and I'm even more afraid of what he can become.
My father returned his gaze from the ceiling back towards me and looked at me sharply.
I had been thinking long before he proved himself capable of murder that Blade was not fit to be the head of this family. There is a darkness within him that even I balk at. He cannot lead, he can only rule. As the head, he'd destroy not only others, but our family as well. I had to consider a backup plan.
I laughed dryly.
So that's all my freedom was to you? A backup plan?
That's not all it was, but it was the final push I needed. My regret of how I had treated you and my fear of Blade were the catalysts for me to decide to give you your freedom. If you were to become the head, you would need to see the world outside this mansion. The consequences of your existence coming to light could be dealt with after.
Then why wait this long? You've let Blade kill not only once, but twice now. Just turn him in and make me the head. Wasn't that your plan all along?
Because I thought it was too late. I hadn't acted fast enough. Blade had already done something I couldn't fix. Turning in Blade would destroy our family. I didn't want to place you in charge of a fallen family. I thought you weren't strong enough for that.
He smiled warmly at me. But that doesn't make sense. Like, if he is still open to the possibility of her becoming head, then even if we don't turn in Blade, then she'd have to cover it up. She'd have to keep it a secret. That's still not great.
But I was wrong. It was not you who wasn't strong enough. It was me. I was still afraid. But no longer. Your strength has convinced me. The family name must be destroyed and rebuilt, and only you can rebuild it. I think I knew that all along. I let you have your freedom because I needed you. It's a miracle a man as horrible as me only ruined one of his 2 children. I'm very proud of how you've turned out, Alexandria. You have become a wonderful woman despite all I've done to you.
Father, then you mean...
I will give you my answer now, Alexandria. Parts of it you will like, parts of it not so much.
Oh no. Or maybe... oh no?
I agree to make you the next head of the family.
That must be the part I would like. Only my apprehension of the supposed parts I would not like stopped me from celebrating internally.
I agree to acknowledge you as my daughter publicly.
I can live with being a bastard daughter.
It sounds so crude when you put it that way, Alexandria.
Sorry.
Well, here's the part you're not going to like. I am not agreeing to turn in Blade.
Of course. What?
But how can I be the heir then?
My agreeing to what you've said doesn't make me a good person. It makes me slightly better than the person I was moments ago. I still love Blade and don't want to see him go to jail.
Father?
He put his hands up.
But I won't allow him to be head.
You know he isn't going to accept that.
Which is why I'm going to need to figure something out.
I scoffed.
Like Blade can be reasoned with.
He probably can't be. I'll have to send him away most likely.
That's the solution? Oh boy.
I don't see how this is going to work.
Both Blade and I deserve to be in jail, but I'm not letting that happen. That is my compromise to you.
That's a shitty compromise. I scoffed once again.
So I have to compromise my own morality to fix this family? Then I'd be no better than the rest of you.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I said.
I say compromise, but let me remind you, Alexandria, I am the current head for just a little longer. This is fundamentally my last act as head. I do one more bad thing to protect this family, and then it's up to you to fix it.
Wow, thank you. He leaned forward.
You will be the head, and I will begin the arrangements for getting myself and Blade out of your way. I will have Blade moved somewhere else, announce you and your headship, train you on the basics of our business, and then it's up to you. Sound good?
It does not sound good, but I guess this is the best I'm going to get. I I see now how the Thornheads operate business-wise.
Yes, we're nasty, but I'm not sure I could even turn Blade in like you requested. He's got more connections with the police than I thought. All I can do is offer a motive for Marina's murder, but a motive isn't evidence enough for an arrest. The best I can do is get him out of here and work on repairing our broken father-son relationship.
Good luck with that.
Yes, well, I'll need it. So, we have a deal?
My father stuck out his hand, and I thought back to a little more than a month ago, when Nick and I had finalized our deal. I smiled.
We have a deal. Thank you, Father.
I shook his hand.
Alexandria, I'm very proud of you. You will make a great head.
That's the idea. But I hope you know how stupid you're being in regard to Blade.
I do, but unfortunately for you, as the head, I get to be the one to make stupid decisions.
It's amazing how stupid people can be in the name of delusional self-interest. The queen, no longer just a princess. So he did agree? Well, yeah, that's a shitty deal. Like, again, it's better than getting nothing out of it and just, yeah, letting Blade be the head. But still, like, I totally understand why she would agree to the deal. And I mean, what's to say, like, once she is announced head, she cannot still try to get Blade committed. You know? But oh boy. Man. July 18th, 19XX. Father gave me no specific date for the transition of headship from Blade to me, but told me it would probably take 2 weeks. Okay, so it turns out we didn't quite lie then about the deal to Nick and the 2 weeks. Okay. Until then, my house arrest was to continue until arrangements had been made so that Blade would not be aware of what was going on. I ignored the house arrest, of course. As the next head of the family, I felt I was entitled to a little gambling with my life. I had succeeded in my moonlight getaway once. I was certain I could do it again. And I probably said this before, that it really would have been smarter probably to just wait the 2 weeks out, but I get it. And so I did, again and again and again. Every night I escaped the mansion to be with Nick under the night sky of Alcantra. I told him that it was for certain that I would be the next head, and that the transition would be done sometime in the next 2 weeks. With the matters of business out of the way, we spent the next week in our honeymoon phase. Our activities were indeed sweet like honey, and were definitely under the moon. Wow. There is no need to outline all of our noxious romantic behavior, lest we turn romance into routine, but there is one tryst I would like to detail here that was particularly memorable. Call it an especially noteworthy slice of heaven in a week of heavenly pie.
Nick, is there anything we should make sure to do before we die?
Up till my sudden dramatic question, we had just been sitting together on the hill we met upon in the evenings. Nick let out a splutter.
Are we planning on dying soon?
People always act like tomorrow is guaranteed, when the only thing we can be certain of is now.
I see what you mean, but sometimes you have to gamble on a tomorrow.
Yeah, okay, but compared to most lovers, our situation is particularly perilous. Star-crossed as we are, we should make sure we do the things we can.
Oh boy. Yeah. There was one particularly noteworthy thing that lovers do we hadn't done yet, and both Nick and I knew it. Surprisingly chivalrous as Nick was, and as cognizant of the ethereal nature of romance as I was, I decided it was up to me to get things rolling. I gave Nick a playful tackle. We rolled a bit down the hill, finalizing ourselves in a position with me leaning over him, my hair a curtain around his head, my hands holding his face.
So, does anything particular come to mind?
I don't know, Alexandria. It seems like there's already something you'd like to do.
He put his hand over my hand that was holding his face.
But seriously, here on a hill, on the grass?
Humans should get in touch with their natural elements. I hear the sort of thing could really benefit from gravity anyhow.
You have no idea what you're talking about.
You are correct. I have no idea what I'm talking about. And you?
Not a clue. This is as new to me as it is for you.
Well then, let's make some memories. No matter what happens, we'll always have tonight.
Only you can make the most romantic shit sound so depressing. I laughed.
It is precisely because it is depressing that it is romantic. Of all the emotions, love is the only one that dances so much between happiness and sadness. Sadness will come, Nick. Let's be happy now.
I leaned in and closed the gap between his lips and mine. Moments later, tenderness, intimacy, a decline on the incline. Properly lovers now, I leave the rest to the imagination for the sanctity of our privacy. The sublimity of a lifetime is not to be shared, for only in our memories can the preciousness of the encounter be given justice. Well, let's see what Nick has to say about this. Not all the memories were good, Alexandria. That's why I had given up. But I've made new memories with you. Will they be enough so that I don't give up again? Can I live life again without you? Not everyone gets second chances. Should I take mine? I thought back to the last time I had given up, when I returned to my home in Alcantra, when I returned to the town where you were. Oh, we get to see that. When I quit my job, closed the lease on my apartment and moved back in with my parents, I thought I had hit rock bottom. Looking back, that probably wasn't true. I wasn't giving up. I was trying to figure out how to live again. If I wanted to enjoy being alive, something had to change. And for something to change, I had to start over. Home isn't the place you spend the most time at. Home is where you return to when times are hard. The medium-sized house in the southwest part of Alcantra, where my parents lived, was my home. The best things in my life happened in Alcantra. The worst things in my life happened in Alcantra. If I was going to figure out how to live, it was going to be in Alcantra. Interesting. Makes sense though. It was a rainy day in April when I pulled into my parents' driveway with my red sedan. I didn't need a moving truck since everything I wanted to bring could fit in the trunk of the car. The air had a slight chill as winter was just ending and spring was hesitant to show up. April was a transitory month. It was the perfect month for me to move back home. The rain had an expectant feel to it, like it wanted me to make a decision. We're gonna keep coming down till you decide to be happy. My parents were waiting for me under the porch. They knew that I wasn't happy with how my life was going and were extremely encouraging about me coming to live with them. My parents were retired, but I had saved quite a lot of money, so I would be okay not working for a while. I told them I would find a direction for my life within the year, but I knew they would be happy if I stayed with them longer. Some parents think they went wrong with their kids if their kids live with them, but my parents weren't like that. We loved each other a lot. They wanted me around. Still, I wanted something to change, for life to be more than what it was for me now. As much as my parents loved me, it would be a shame if I couldn't love myself as well. I left my possessions in the trunk and walked briskly through the rain to join my parents. I didn't join them under the porch. I stood in front of the 2 small steps that separated me from them. I let the cool rain fall over me. I wasn't ready to join my parents yet. My parents understood. That's why they were here after all. Uncle Kyle had left it to them to convince me of the value of life. I wasn't going to join them till I understood that value. Until then, I was going to feel the rain. Ah, so we are getting the parents with this kind of thing. Do you think the value of life is in the small things or the big things? I didn't think it was a very clear question, and my parents never agreed on anything, but to my surprise they took a glance at each other, nodded, and said at the same time, "The small things." The small things. Maybe that's why life has been so hard for me. Dirty dishes, irritating interactions at work, being too tired to clean. If the value of life comes from things like that, then life doesn't sound so great. I looked up at my parents. My father was wearing his best poker face, and I could tell my mother was doing her best to hold back a massive tirade about the sanitary conditions of my previous apartment. Why don't you think the big moments give life its value? My dad spoke up first.
Because life wouldn't be all that valuable then.
Why not?
You don't have that many big moments in life.
My mother jumped in.
What about you and Alexandria? If it was just the big moments, there would only be a couple, right? When you met her, when you confessed your feelings to each other, and when she died. If life was only valuable for those sorts of moments, like getting your dream job or meeting the love of your life, there wouldn't be many moments that make life valuable. What about your time with Alexandria was valuable?
All of it.
And what did all mostly consist of?
Small moments.
Alexandria is showing you the moments, the everyday that makes life valuable. The dances in a ballroom, dates on a mountainside, walks along the canal, intimacy under the night sky. Life is the accumulation of moments of small value.
You might be right, but that scares me a little. Like I said, the small moments haven't been great since Alexandria died.
Which is why you've come home, dear. You're going to figure it out. The small stuff, that is.
My mother nodded like she figured something out.
Think of it like this, dear. What Alexandria is showing you isn't just her perspective. It's a reminder of what makes life good. The big moments, the meetings, the confessions, they only set the stage for the small moments, the moments that constitute a lifetime.
A reminder, huh? That's fitting. Reminders are about the past. The past me is gone. I'm not like how I was anymore.
Only if you don't try. We'd all be very sad if that Nick was completely gone. After all, he meant a lot to some of us, including himself.
None of us get through life alone. We're all just doing our best to get from day to day to day to day. You'll have to figure it out yourself, but we'll be here to help.
Even so, if I collected lots of valuable small moments, are they worth getting at the cost of leaving Alexandria now? My dad nodded.
They are.
Why is that?
Well, eternity is a long time, right?
Yeah, eternity is a long time.
And in that very long time, you'll be stuck being who you were when you died. If you ask me, an immortal, immaterial eternity sounds a little scary when put like that. If things are like that, you'll want to go in being the best version of you, the version of you who had gotten the most out of life. After all, it's that person who will have to deal with eternity.
If that's true, Alexandria definitely got the short end of the stick.
She absolutely did, but it'd be terrible if you joined her already. She was much more ready to die than you are.
Should my dad really be talking to me like this?
Yes, he should. I would know better than you that us foxes don't get shit figured out till around 38.
That seems awfully specific.
The point is that 27 years old you would be pretty miserable in the afterlife. Imagine moping about your first love for an eternity.
This is surprisingly logical. I was expecting a more emotional appeal. My mother laughed.
We know the type of person you are, dear. The logical feeds the emotional for you. You know how much you meant to Alexandria and how much she meant to you. The bond between you two is unique, but you're still capable of connecting with others. It doesn't need to be romantic. Accumulate those connections that result in those small moments that are so valuable, and then you can enjoy eternity afterwards. Eternity will be much better then. After all, it'd be boring to just talk with Alexandria, Walbert and Scarlett, Terence, Uncle Kyle and us for the rest of your eternal life.
Don't let Alexandria hear you say that.
Oh, I think she'd agree. An eternity is a long time. What's 60 more finite years?
I couldn't help but laugh at that. That sounds like coping. I bet 60 years will feel like a long time.
It is coping, but you act like coping is a bad thing. You were worried this wasn't real. Who cares if it isn't? Maybe this is your brain coping, convincing you to live. Even so, we all cope in different ways to help get through life.
Yeah, very true. Yeah, but this would be a delusional sort of coping.
Is it any more delusional than the usual sorts of coping? Alexandria is telling you a story, and stories themselves are a way of coping with the world. Alexandria is just adding one more story to the vast catalogue of perspectives documenting the value of human experience. We can only attempt to figure out the value of our own lives by understanding the value of others. And your story is worth telling too, dear. That's why none of us want you to give up. Tell us your story so that our lives can mean just a little more. For our time on Earth, for the forever we may have later.
With those words, I could almost feel the rain lit up. I thought Alexandria's story was worth something, and I was such a large part of that story. Surely mine was worth something as well, and even if it wasn't worth much, I had to try and make it worth something. To do that, I had to live. Only then could I stand proud next to Alexandria, if standing was something you did in the afterlife.
But Nick, don't think of us as trying to convince you living is worth it just for the sake of living. We only want you to live if you want to, if you think life can be something of value for you once again. That's right, Nick. We love you no matter what you decide.
I think I can live a life worth living, a life where I was glad to be alive. Both my parents smiled at that. I looked up at the rain clouds above. The rain itself wasn't letting up, but you can't just wait for the rain to end. I smiled back at my parents and joined them under the porch. Okay, big step forward in that regard, but I'm going to leave it here for today till we get back to... We'll get back to Alexandria's POV next time, and yeah, I assume that's when we're also going to finalize, like, her last days. Because I don't think it was long after that, but oh well. Yeah, that's it from me for today. As always, I'd appreciate if you'd let me know your thoughts in the comments. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time, bye bye.